Good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Lee. I'm the president of the APAPA Southern California Orange County chapter. APAPA stands for Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs Association. The mission of APAPA is to inspire and empower future leaders and to support Asian American and Pacific Islander representation in government. I'm going to give a minute here for those of you at home, watching online, and for the audience here. We're just going to take a minute to settle in a little bit. I want to remind everyone that you can promote this event from where you are right now. If you use the hashtag Unity Against Hate and hashtag Stop AAPI Hate, please promote this on social media, let people know what's going on, have them tune in. We're going to have a really good hour of presentation from speakers that's going to move you and inspire you to take a stand against hate. All right.
Our beautiful side.
Also, for those of you who are here in person, please come on in, join us over here. I'm going to be talking to the audience at home and the audience here. People seated in the audience here will have first dibs on t-shirts. We've got limited t-shirts and limited sizes, so you'll get the t-shirt your size. Come on and join us. It's only going to be an hour-long program, all right? Okay, well, I'd like to get started. All across this nation, hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise. It's not just about increased media coverage. It's not just because of increased reporting. And yes, you can say that anti-Asian sentiment has been documented for centuries, but no, something more is happening. Every day we see videos and stories of attacks against the AAPI community. For example, the elderly Asian American woman who was assaulted while walking down a sidewalk in New York, the horrific shootings in the Atlanta area, vulnerable elderly victims, businesses and homes being vandalized. Something is happening. And of course, the AAPI community is not alone. We've seen the struggles of the Black community, the Hispanic community, the LGBTQ community, just to name a few. Actually, any of us can be a victim of hate. Something is happening and it's very concerning. But today we want something else to happen. We want to unite and take a stand against hate. That's why we're here. And actually right now, as we hold this event here at Buena Park, at the Source, there are events happening simultaneously across the country in New York, Washington, D.C., cities across California. We've got rallies and virtual rallies where it's safe for COVID. We're doing that across the country, and the idea is that we want to unite all communities at one time to take a stand against hate. So today's event is intended to be an opportunity for all Americans to come together, regardless of political affiliation, race, ethnicity, or gender, to say that hate will not be tolerated. Now I'd like to introduce our special guest for today. We're here again at the Source in the city of Buena Park. We're fortunate to have with us today Sunny Youngson Park. Ms. Park serves as the Mayor Pro Tem of Buena Park. She's an attorney and an active leader in the community and government service. She's been the director for the LA Community College Foundation and was also a member of the California Asian Pacific Islander Caucus. She received the Presidential Gold Medal for volunteerism in 2016 from former President U.S. Barack Obama. Please welcome Mayor Pro Tem Sunny Park.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome all of you to Buena Park. My name is Sunny Park, Mayor Pro Tem of Buena Park. Many thanks to the API Public Affairs Association for hosting this event in my city. Racism is a real thing, and it is a very personal and very intense experience on both the victim and the aggressor. As a person of color, I'd like to share my perspective on this issue. I came to the United States when I was 26 from South Korea to attend the law school as an international student. Since then, I've been practicing law, estate planning and probate law. As an attorney, I have always stood firmly on the professional competence. People came to me for my training and special knowledge in the law, and it really didn't matter which ethnicity I belonged to. But as a political candidate, the things were very, very different. people would tell me that Koreans are ruining this city. Or some people shut the door on me, yelling out, "No Koreans." I remember a retired police officer whom I served with the same volunteer group for many years, telling me that it would really piss him off because the city went for the district voting and I would win the election no matter what because I have the number of voters on my side. To this date, I remember the disgust and hate that I saw in his eyes. So when I finally got elected, I was very determined to use my experience on the campaign trail to address racial inequity issues to benefit all people. As a city, we created a dual language assistance program to provide a translator for non-English speakers so that they could voice themselves on important city issues. We worked very hard with all of the ethnic minority groups in Buena Park to make sure that we got all counted for 2020 census. When Black Lives Matter started, the city created a human relations committee to work with the police department, school districts, the library district, and other community organizations for better human relations. Buena Park Police Department on its own initiated a program called See Something, Say Something, and reached out business owners in minority business district and enhanced police patrols in those areas very promptly right after the Atlanta shooting occurred. So when the shooting occurred, not only Asians, but all other community members in Buena Park came together in support of anti-Asian hate. See, we cannot never be ready for hate crimes, but we can change the culture and the system to reduce hate crimes and racial tension by improving human relations. Better human relations benefit all people. I say it again, better human relations benefit all people, not only people of color, but also all community members. So as elected, my commitment to you is to make this community safer, healthier, and more inclusive in coming years. So I look forward to working with all of you and the API Public Affairs Association to achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Park. Next, we will be hearing from Ken Inoue. He's a past board president of the Orange County Human Relations Council and a past president of the esteemed Japanese American Citizens League, the JACL. In 1997, Mr. Inoue was a co-founder of the Orange County Asian Pacific Islander Community Alliance, or OCAPICA. Mr. Inoue is here today on behalf of Orange County Human Relations. The stated mission of the Orange County Human Relations Council is to foster mutual understanding among residents and eliminate prejudice, intolerance, and discrimination in order to make Orange County a better place for all people to live, work, and do business. Please welcome Mr. Ken Inoue.
I'll try to peek over this thing here. Good morning. As Phil said, my name is Ken Inoue, and I'm with the Orange County Human Relations Council. And as Phil said, the Orange County Human Relations Council's mission is to try to make Orange County a better place for all people to live. Now let me give you some perspective as to what's happened in Orange County over the last 30 years. When I first came to Orange County, there weren't many people that looked like us. In fact, when I walked down the streets of Huntington Beach, sometimes people would stare and kind of wonder, who is that guy? but for the most part, people were friendly. But one of the things that happened as Orange County began this transition was how people dealt with this transition. I begin to understand that the fact that people didn't know how to deal with it was probably a natural phenomenon. Because once your community changes, it's no longer what you're used to, there's going to be questions. So the real key, as Mayor said, was to get to know each other. But one of the things that kind of bothered me was that many years ago, when they had hate crimes, the people here in Orange County said, no, we didn't have hate crimes. This is the home of Disneyland and John Wayne. I can remember one particular case when Tien Minh Le, the Vietnamese honor student, was killed in Tustin. And I went to the Tustin Police Department and encouraged them to treat it as a hate crime. Because the victim of a hate crime feels like they're victimized twice, once by the perpetrator, and second of all, if the community doesn't respond appropriately. So, a mere 30-some years ago, Orange County was a place where people didn't want to admit we had hate crimes. Now, we've kept statistics in Orange County as far as what the number of hate crimes and incidents here in Orange County in the last 20 years. And we found out that many times the victims of choice, or the communities that are most victimized, are victimized because of what's happening in the court of public opinion. Right after 9/11, the Arab American community was severely vandalized and chosen as being victims of hate crimes. When the Japanese were taking over the United States many years ago, Asian Americans were attacked. And these are things that we really can't accept because once a person's any crime of hate against one individual, it really affects us all indirectly. And it's something we have to really fix. Now, I want to thank all of you for being here today, because the way we make things better is when the community knows what's going on and is able to respond appropriately. So if you see something going on that's not right, don't stand there. Do something. It's hard to be confrontational with somebody that's irrational, that's full of hate, but you don't have to stand there and do nothing. You can maybe confuse them by talking to them, or taking them away from the victim, or having the victim know that they're not alone. That's how community comes back and takes hate away. They work together to let people know that it's not acceptable. So I really thank everyone for being here, for sponsoring this event, because if we come together, not just people of color, we can do something. Let me tell you else what's going on in Orange County. A month ago, the Orange County Board of Supervisors adopted 2 resolutions that said hate will not be tolerated in Orange County. That's a very significant resolution that is coming to admit that we have hate. Now, also at the same time, they wanted people to come, the Board of Supervisors wanted a budget. They proposed on how to create a hate crime network here in Orange County that would combat hate. So in Orange County, the elected officials have taken the first step by recognizing something will be done, and hopefully they'll adopt the budget that's been proposed by the community. And lastly, let me tell you something that's really, really important. We now have a district attorney, Todd Spitzer, who recognizes that hate is a very vile thing, and something to this office is going to prosecute to the full extent of the law. In fact, the first hate case that came up when Todd Spitzer was the district attorney, he attended the sentencing hearing. And when the sentencing came out, he said, no, that's not enough. For that kind of history of hate and betrayal of human dignity, this gentleman deserves more of a sentence. So Orange County has changed. We have people that recognize things are going to be done. And now we have a district attorney that's going to do something about it. So once again, I thank you for the opportunity to let me speak together. And let's come together and make this thing better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. For those of you who are just joining us, we have many rallies going on across the country right now in multiple cities. It's organized, our event today was organized by the local chapters for the Alpha Group, Asian Pacific Islander Pacific American Public Affairs, but this large nationwide event is sponsored by numerous other organizations. And we're doing that because, again, this event is not only about the anti-Asian hate, but it is about unifying all of us against hate. Our third presenter today, oh, by the way, folks up there, come on down. Join us, please have a seat. Our third presenter today is the Reverend Dr. Yvonne Williams-Boyd. Dr. Boyd is a United Methodist clergy. She has served as a pastor and as an adjunct professor. She is a passionate advocate for social justice and peace, and anti-racism has been a hallmark of her years of work in the field. Please welcome Dr. Boyd.
I want to thank the Asian Pacific Islander Public Affairs Organization, Philip Lee, for the invitation to join you today. We know injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Across this nation and even the globe, we must channel the wisdom of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, "We will either learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish as fools." And so we gather here and around the nation, calling for unity against hate. If you would allow me a moment that we might pause and spend time before the Creator, as I offer the lyrics to this great hymn, let us center. Once to every man and nation comes the moment to decide, and the strife of truth and falsehood for the good or evil side. Some great cause, God's new Messiah offering each the bloom and light, and the choice goes by forever twixt the darkness and that light. Though the cause of evil prosper, yet 'tis truth alone is strong, though proportions be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. On November the 3rd, 2016, I woke up with what felt like a boulder in the pit of my stomach. I was numb. I was distressed and depressed with what was the outcome of the presidential election. By the time of the inauguration on that dark morning of January 20th, 2017, grief had consumed me. And for a moment, my body was overcome with the stress of pain in almost every bone and muscle. For a moment. But by the next day, January 21st, 2017, I woke up from my sleep with a fierce determination that I was not going to sit idle with the despotic, xenophobic, white supremacist vision that the former president had for our nation. And so I woke up. I got dressed, made my way to the steps of the Pasadena City Hall, and then onto the steps of Los Angeles City Hall, as I joined thousands of nonviolent people in the first International Women's March. It was an incredible day of rally and protest and power. Yes, there were great speeches made by inspiring speakers. However, I was inspired and compelled as I read the messages written on the abundance of protest signs. The signs displayed messages that were biting, messages that were humorous, messages that were serious, messages that caused one to pause. A child of the 60s and the Civil Rights Movement, and a teen and an adult of the 70s and the anti-war movement, I was arrested in contemplation by one sign that I happened to see being carried by a woman who said she was in her 80s. The handwritten sign on the simple white school project poster board read, "I can't believe I still have to protest this," expletive deleted. "I can't believe I still have to protest this." But we do. When leaders and institutions till the soil of stereotypes, biases, and prejudices, we have to rally, we have to protest. When leaders and institutions fail to protect the civil rights and human decency of all its citizens, we still have to rally. When leaders and institutions objectify a race of people with misleading labels and inflammatory name-calling, oh yes, we have to rally. We have to, because this type of evil becomes the fuel for violent acts of aggression, resulting in injury and death. And when we deny the benefits of dialoguing with one another as racial ethnic communities, we find ourselves uninformed to the true reality of our unity and commonality. In an article penned by Jennifer Lee and Tiffany Wong titled, "Why the Trope of Black-Asian Conflict in the Face of Anti-Asian Violence Dismisses Solidarity," they state, and I quote, "Among Asian groups, 70% agree that the government should do more to protect the civil rights of Black Americans, and 67% agree that local governments should shift spending from law enforcement to programs. More generally, many Asian Americans recognize commonalities with Black Americans, that half of Asian Americans across 10 different national origin groups feel that they have something or a lot in common with Black Americans when it comes to government, political power, and representation." In another article titled "Advocates Discourage Anti-Black Sentiment Amid Violence Against Asians," Reverend Sherry Murphy, a social justice minister in Oakland, California, states, "When you have narratives that attempt to divide each other, what you are doing is distracting to the solutions, the root causes to what's impacting both of those communities, which is why it is really essential that we have these community-centered resources." In that same article, Ju Han, who is the Deputy Director and Advocacy Group Asian American Federation, states, "Historically, the AAPI community has benefited from the Black community's fight for civil rights, which led to the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 that allowed our families to come over to this country. And many AAPIs now, especially the younger generation, understand that our liberation is always bound up with the Black community and other communities of color, and we can't make gains without working together." So today, we celebrate the passing of Senate Bill 937 and look forward to the House bill passing. We rally to give voice of affirmation to codifying of this bill that a position at the Justice Department will strengthen the Civil Rights Department in its protection of all its constituents and citizens. We rally and protest this day and undoubtedly in days to come to be a persistent and perpetual face of choice, choosing good over evil, right over wrong, justice over injustice. We will rally, until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Boyd. Thank you. Okay, one more time, I'll take this little break moment to address those of you who may be just joining us online or have come into our event. This is a PAPA and multi-organizational Unity Against Hate rally going on across the country. For those of you who are here, thank you so much. Those of you watching it online, thank you. At the end, we will have more information about how you can get involved. And for those of you who are here, at the end, we've got some free items to give to you, so please stick around for that. And we have something special planned for that, involving the yellow whistle. Okay? Now, our fourth speaker is Andrew Chow. Aside from serving as a member of, he's a Diamond Bar City Councilman, and aside from serving as a member of the City Council, he's also a strong advocate for local youth. Councilman Chow volunteers his time and effort with the local Kiwanis Club and Key Club. He's been doing that for several years. He's also the founder of the UC Irvine Los Angeles Alumni Chapter, Anteaters, and he previously served as a board member of the UCI Alumni Association. Recently, Mr. Chow's been speaking at Stop Asian Hate rallies in the city of Diamond Bar and the city of Walnut. We're very glad to have him with us here today. Please welcome Andrew Chow.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come speak. I want to thank Paba, Howard, and Philip for the invitation. Now, you may be wondering, what is a council member from Diamond Bar doing in Buena Park? Well, the reason is simple, because racism and bigotry does not stop at city limits. Diamond Bar is a city of 57,000 people, 57% of which happens to be Asian American. And you would think that in a community that's predominantly Asian, that we don't have a lot of hate incidents. But unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, when we had an anti-Asian hate rally in Diamond Bar, a gentleman decided to drive his car through the crowd. Now, luckily, no one was injured and nobody was hit, but it certainly got the community up in arms, and the deputies on scene saw with their own eyes, and they immediately filed a report. And we want to thank the LA County Sheriff Villanueva for immediately calling that a hate crime. The incident was then escalated to our DA, and unfortunately, charges were not filed. So I'm here to speak to you about my personal experience growing up as an Asian American in a city that's predominantly Asian. I still remember as a 12-year-old, I proudly wore a shirt that says, "Proud to be an American," to school. In the front, there was a picture of a American bald eagle, and on the back, it says USA in red, white, and blue. I went to school with that shirt on, full pride, and one of my friends, a schoolmate, told me, "Hey, you can't wear that shirt." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you don't look American." Now, this was back in 1992. Now, I can't believe 30 years later, we're still in the same fight. During COVID last year, and we're still in the middle of COVID, but last year, there were literally 3,800 reported incidents of hate against Asian Americans. Now, these are well-documented incidents of hate. Most of them were verbal assaults, but we had some physical assaults. And as our speaker mentioned earlier, there was that deadly shooting in Atlanta. So even 30 years later, we're still in this fight. And that's why we need to continue to rally. We need to continue to speak up, because racism and bigotry has to be called out everywhere it comes. If we stop speaking up, racism and bigotry becomes the norm. It becomes normalized. And that's why I'm so proud to stand here with you and all of you today to speak up. Because, just by speaking up, it's often not enough. And by continuing to speak up, we're forcing our legislatures and me as an elected official to take actions. And that's why I'm so proud of the U.S. Senate passed a bill just not too long ago to condemn hate and also to install a new position at the Department of Justice. And we're hoping that in the coming weeks, the United States Congress will also pass this bill. And on the local level, in the city of Diamond Bar, I'm proud to say that for the first time ever, we actually issued a resolution condemning Asian hate. A couple weeks ago, I was the champion of that, and I'm glad that our council passed it. And together, we sent out a very strong statement that as a city, we will not tolerate hate. Thank you. And next week, also for the first time ever in our city's history, we'll be issuing a proclamation for Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Now, this resolution in itself may not be significant, but it's what it symbolizes. It symbolizes that as a city, as a county, as a state, as a country, we no longer will tolerate hate against Asian Americans. And to me, my sincere hope is that 30 years from now, my son can go out where a shirt says, I'm an American, and no one will bat an eye. No one's gonna come up to him and say, you're not American, or ask him where he's really from. So let me finish with this. I strongly believe that this is our moment as Asian Americans. This is a moment that will define our generation. We have to leave this world in a better place for our sons, our daughters, and our children, so that when they grow up, they'll never have to face discrimination. And they'll grow up knowing that we're just as American as anyone else that come before and after us, because we're all in this fight together, and that's why we're here today. Because I believe that together we will overcome, and together we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Chow. All right, that concludes the guest speaker portion of our program. What I'm going to do now, again, folks at home and folks here, will be giving our thanks and some closing remarks and talking about some resources that you can use to make a difference and be a part of the movement. The fact is, while I think that we would all like to stop the hate before it happens, before it takes root and turns into an action, it seems very possible that any one of us can find ourselves on the receiving end of hate. Any of us could witness someone else being the target of a verbal or physical attack. So one of the things we wanted to do today was not just empower you and unite us, but also talk about some resources that you could use to help prepare you to be a part of this fight against hate. Two resources that we wanted to share that will also be posted on our Facebook page is CAIR, C-A-I-R, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Check out their website. Among the many things that they do, CAIR actually offers self-defense courses online. So if you're not ready to go down to the martial arts studio or take a self-defense class in person, you can still learn some great resources and techniques through the CAIR website. The second is HALABAC, which offers a bystander intervention training. It's also online and it's also free. I've taken the class. You will learn what to do if you witness someone being harassed and what are ways that you can intervene. You know how that happens sometimes. You see something that's uncomfortable, you want to help that person, you're not quite sure what you want to say or what to do. You're looking around. HALABAC has a great course that gives you some techniques to make you feel more comfortable, and if you have the practice, it's that much easier to take a stand. And then finally, I have a call to action and assignment for you all to consider. Next week, the Meng Hirono proposed legislation against Asian hate crimes will reach the House of Representatives. Look it up and get informed, find out what the bill is about. And then if you decide that you'd like to join us in supporting the bill, take action. It could be a tweet to House Speaker Pelosi, it could be a letter to President Biden, it could be a call to your local congressperson, urging them to get this bill passed and signed. And on that note, a few resources that we also have today. Besides the t-shirts and the whistles, which we'll talk about in just a minute, we also have voter registration forms, and of course, voter registration is a key to making sure that you're participating and having your voice heard. So if you would like to get that taken care of today also, that's something else that you could do. I'm going to bring up my colleague, Dr. Howard Wang, in just a moment. Again, this event was a co-organized event with the San Gabriel chapter of APAPA and the Orange County chapter, and in addition to the other sponsoring organizations. And so I'm going to have him come up, and he's going to talk about the whistles and some other activities that we have for you. And of course, please come on down and join us in this activity.
Thank you, Philip. This will be quick, painless. And what I'm going to say is to explain a little bit about the origin of the yellow whistle. Now, this is a trademark from the yellow whistle project. So I'm just simply lifting that paragraph. So I want to say this in advance so that I won't be accused of plagiarism. So anyway, here it goes. So in nature, yellow is the color of daffodils and sunflowers, signaling the advent of spring, bringing hope, optimism, and enlightenment. In America, yellow has been weaponized against Asians as the color of xenophobia. The yellow whistle is a symbol of self-protection and solidarity in our common fight against historical discrimination and anti-Asian violence. The whistle is a simple gadget with a universal purpose to signal alarm and call for help. For all Americans, we shall not remain silent because we belong. Thank you very much.
All right, so as we conclude today's event, I would like to, on behalf of the Apapa Southern California region, just say thank you. I'd like to thank the Source, the shopping and entertainment destination center around us, and the Source employees for hosting us today. We'd also like to thank JA Event Production for handling sound. And let's please thank our guest speakers one more time. Thank you to our event organizers and all of our volunteers. I want to thank all of you for participating with us today here and online. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. God bless you. Have a good afternoon. Thank you. Everyone join with me and let's blow the whistle. Make it loud, make it heard.
Okay, on three, cook it.
On three. One. Got our whistles ready? Everyone. One. And two. Oh. All right. Let's go. All right, so everyone, if you'd like to go ahead and go to our table over there, we have information. This concludes our program, but we have information. We have some t-shirts for today's event. We also have whistles. We also have a couple other announcements to make.
If you live in Orange County or San Gabriel Valley, please go to the first table here, sign up to be members of the chapter. So there's the San Gabriel Valley chapter and the Orange County chapter. And Philip is the president of the Orange County chapter. I'm the chairperson of the San Gabriel Valley chapter. Just sign up and just give your name and email